All right, so today we're diving into something that's been generating a lot of buzz lately. Those new U.S. tariffs on agriculture
Right.
and what they could mean for the Philippines. Especially for our local farmers.
Yeah.
We've been digging into articles with insights from, well, some heavy hitters like former Agriculture Secretaries Dar and Montemer and
hmm
a bunch of other experts to try and make sense of it all for you.
Yeah, one of the first things that really jumps out is that the Philippines actually has a trade surplus
Hmm.
with the U.S.
Really?
Yeah. And we also have like lower tariffs compared to a lot of other Southeast Asian countries.
Huh.
So we're talking 17% for us versus like up to 49% for some of our neighbors.
So that sounds like a good thing, right?
You'd think so, right? But, well, there's a catch.
Okay, I figured.
The big concern is that U.S. farm exporters, if they get hit with retaliatory tariffs in other big markets, they might start looking at the Philippines as like this prime alternative.
Oh, I see.
Imagine a sudden influx of cheaper American produce flooding our markets.
Yeah, that could be a problem.
And that brings us to this key point that Mr. Monomer brought up, the risk of dumping.
Dumping.
Yeah, basically, if U.S. producers can't sell their stuff elsewhere because of those tariffs, they might just offload all that surplus here in the Philippines.
At super low prices.
Exactly. Prices that would totally undercut our local farmers who are, let's face it, already struggling with tight margins.
So those lower tariffs we have, that might not be enough protection on its own.
It might not be, no. And Mr. Dar actually warns against getting too fixated on just that tariff difference.
Interesting.
What's really fascinating is that other countries, even those facing higher U.S. tariffs, they might just ramp up support for their own farmers.
Like subsidies and things like that.
Exactly, to help them stay competitive and, well, Filipino farmers and exporters often don't have that kind of backing.
So if you had to pick, which parts of Philippine agriculture are most vulnerable here?
Well, Mr. Montemayor is really worried about our coconut farmers.
Yeah, we have a lot of them.
3.4 million, to be exact. And in 2023 alone, we exported something like $22 billion worth of coconut products to the U.S.
Wow.
So any kind of price drop or even just a dip in demand over there could be huge.
Yeah, no kidding.
And Mr. Dar also mentioned processed fruits and seafood being at risk.
Right.
Mr. Kangland, he's from Sunag, he added semi-processed goods to that list. Things like coconut oil, desiccated coconut, canned pineapple, coconut water, all those could be hit.
So a pretty wide range of potential impacts then.
Yeah, very broad, potentially affecting a lot of major agricultural earners here.
So not exactly a rosy picture, but is there any potential upside to this whole situation?
Well, interestingly enough, a Ateneo economics professor, Leonardo A. Lanzona, he suggested this could actually be an opportunity for the Philippines to, maybe focus more on developing our manufacturing sector.
Really? How so?
Well, think about it. If global food prices start going up because of all these tariffs, our agricultural products might become more competitive compared to, say, our current top exports to the U.S., things like integrated circuits and semiconductors,
Right.
which, by the way, could also be affected by these tariffs, so it's kind of a double whammy.
Okay, I see what you mean, but what about the cost of actually making all those exportable goods?
That's a really crucial point, and retired Professor Roy S. Kempis brought that up.
What do you say?
He basically highlighted that these new tariffs could actually drive up the prices of the supplies and materials we need to produce things for export.
Oh, so that would make us less competitive overall.
Exactly. And he really stressed that we need to step up our game in areas like phytosanitary compliance.
Which is what again?
Basically, it's meeting those international standards for plant health, and we also need to improve our packaging and labeling if we really want to compete on a global scale.
This is all happening against the backdrop of some pretty complicated global trade issues, though, right?
Oh, absolutely. And Mr. Kanglet reminded us about this, that 24-year deadlock at the WTO.
Right, the one over the agriculture agreement.
Yeah, exactly, which really highlights this ongoing tension between protecting local agriculture and dealing with all these subsidized imports flooding the market.
Mm-hmm. It's tough.
Yeah, and he even pointed out that the Philippines has actually reduced its own tariffs on some key imports recently, like rice.
Huh. So it's a tricky balancing act.
It really is.
So if we had to boil all of this down, what's the main takeaway for you?
I think the most important message here, and Mr. Montemayor was really adamant about this, is that the Philippines can't afford to wait.
We have to act now.
Yeah, we need to start improving our agricultural competitiveness across the board, greater efficiency, adhering to those international standards, and presenting our products better.
So if and when the U.S. decides to reverse these tariffs, we're not left behind.
Exactly. We need to be in a strong position to hold on to our market share.
So just to recap, while these new U.S. tariffs might seem beneficial on the surface, the real danger is this potential influx of cheaper U.S. agricultural products. And that, coupled with, the lack of strong support for our own farmers, it creates a really challenging situation.
And it begs the question, what should the Philippines prioritize to ensure the long-term strength of its agricultural sector in this ever-changing global trade environment?
Right. Are we better off shifting our focus towards manufacturing, or should we double down on supporting and strengthening our agricultural capabilities?
That's a tough question with no easy answers.
That's for sure. Thanks for breaking it all down.
You got it.
And to all of you listening, thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.